Hey everyone, this is Kat for the Wisteria Witches. Today we are going on a field trip to a famous location in at least the southwest suburbs of Chicago. And that closed sign there is what remains of the entrance to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. And there's a long path to go down before we get to the cemetery. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history before we get there, and then we'll talk about some of the events once we actually get there. This cemetery is abandoned. As you can see, it's not exactly made advertised to the public, and it dates back to the prairie days when this was all forest and there were no big roads. And right now there's no active caretakers. There are some groups that have taken over, kind of trying to fix it up and keep it protected. And the reason why it needs to be protected is because over the years it has been desecrated to a pretty drastic degree. And you'll see more when we get in there, but it's unfortunately a lot of headstones have been stolen. There have been a lot of vandalism over the years, and there have actually been stories of occult activity happening in the cemetery, but I don't know how true that is. I think it's entirely more likely that a bunch of goth kids came back here and got high. But there are stories anyway about Satanist groups coming back here, and legends of animal remains being found and all kinds of crazy things like that. So those are the stories anyway. Excuse me. And this place is allegedly the most haunted cemetery in the United States. I have no idea how they back up that claim. I don't know how you would quantify something like that, but there you have it. And it's it's become a pretty famous spot in the southwest suburbs. This isn't, like I said, this isn't in Chicago proper. It's they don't have woods in Chicago anymore. But the actual cemetery now, because of all this vandalism, is closed at night. And you can get in here. There's a way, if you want to go through all the red tape to get a permit to come out here at night. And some paranormal investigators have done that in recent years. But I'm not a paranormal investigator, nor do I really have a desire to come here at night, to be frank. But the cemetery itself, once you see, there used to be about 200 graves there. Now there's, well, I mean, there are 200 graves there, but there's only about 20 gravestones that remain because of all the theft and vandalism. And I don't know if you can see, but that fenced-in area over there, that's where we're headed. I'm trying to think of some of the stories that surround the place. There was a TV show that I'd never heard of. Maybe you guys have. It was called Cringe, I think it was called Cringe. And the television crew that came here, and they were doing, it was, a ghost hunters type of show. And they came out here and they filmed an episode. And apparently once they got in the editing room, all of the footage was completely unusable. It was all distorted, and it was completely destroyed. So that's an interesting little happening. And this is actually, these woods anyway, this is the only possible ghost sighting I've ever personally encountered. When I was in high school, as you can imagine, it's a popular place to come, and we came here at night like we weren't supposed to. There's the sign, if you can see it. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. We came here at night, and we were further out in the woods. We weren't in the cemetery proper, but I did see something. It was a very bright white something. I don't know what it was, but believe me, as a teenager in the middle of the night, it scared the bejesus out of me. And so this is it. It's not very large, and it's very overgrown. And as you can see, the gravestones that do still exist are pretty well scattered all over the place. Most people think that they probably don't even mark a proper grave anymore, like these weren't where they were originally placed. And you know, there's not a whole lot of information on a lot of these. Like here you can see these were in the early part of the 20th century. So these are all quite old. And you can tell, I mean, they look like they've been dug up, which is really unfortunate. Now there is more of an attitude of trying to preserve it, which I think is a good thing. But the whole desecration, that's really why people believe that it's so haunted, because of how the place has been disrespected. And some of the stories that have happened here, actually some county sheriffs claim to have had a sighting, and once we get around to it, I'm not sure where it is because I haven't been here in a long time. Once we get around to it, there's a pond. Oh, that's overgrown. I can't get back there. There's like a pond that used to be a bigger lake, and they saw an apparition of a horse carrying a plow with farmer on it, and it was, I guess, I don't know, appeared to be ghostly. And that connects to a story where, from back in the prairie days when there was farmland around here, a farmer's horse got spooked, and the farmer got tangled up in the reins, and the horse dragged him down into the pond. And apparently they didn't even know that story when they claimed to have had this sighting. So that's an interesting piece of history, because you don't normally, at least not from what I know, you don't normally get a lot of people in the law enforcement community claiming to see paranormal. So this one over here, this big stone, this is probably the most famous grave here. Oh, there's the pond. There it is. So they claim to have seen a horse and the farmer coming out of that area. And excuse me. The road, actually, you can hear it and kind of see it back there. The turnpike. Cars, they claim to see phantom cars out on the road. People have seen cars that have just vanished. And now here we come up to the Fulton grave, and the reason why this is so famous is because, as you'll see, there's a grave for an infant daughter. And it's a whole family tomb, as well, not really a tomb, but you know what I mean. And so people leave toys for her, which I think is kind of sweet in a morbid sort of way. But this is one of the more famous graves here. And there's a woman that's also very famous, a famous ghost here. She's called a couple different things. She's called the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. I think she's also called Mrs. Robinson or something like that. Oh, the piece of fence here is gone. You could go for a swim in that lovely green muck. I don't think so. But yeah, she's a very famous ghost here. I don't know if anybody knows who she is or what her story is. And that's part of the mystery of the whole cemetery, is that really it's not a lot is known anymore about it, because it all dates back so far. But it's a really famous spot, and there are a lot of really interesting stories. And it used to be, at least, a very famous place to come and get scared in the middle of the night, but now you're more likely to get a ticket than anything else. So I'll put some links in the description box so that way you can read some more of the stories, but this is probably the most famous haunted location near where I grew up. So just wanted to share this with you guys. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will be talking to you again soon. Take care.